Welcome to Never Too Early, a YouTube series focused on unconventional talent insights for founders. I'm Lauren Ipsen, talent partner at Decibel. In each episode, we'll cover the top 5 commonly asked questions that we get from founders building their organizations for the very first time. It's never too early to learn from the best. I'm super excited to introduce my guest today, Jennifer Longnion. Jenn started her career as organizational development leader with Best Buy, Motorola, and the Coca-Cola Company. She later joined Silicon Beach darling Dollar Shave Club at its prime as Chief People Officer before taking on the COO title, and then most recently taking the role of Chief Impact Officer at Flexport. After 3 decades of leading in the hot seat, Jenn now focuses on scaling multiple ventures as CEO and founder of Sea and Free Consulting. Her clients have anointed her the org whisperer for her ability to walk into organizations at any stage, quickly assess the landscape, and implement transformational solutions on a dime. So with that being said, Jenn is one of the most qualified to answer the top 5 commonly asked questions that we get from founders hiring advisors for the very first time. All right, Jenn, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. So good to see you too, and wonderful to have you here. Thank you for joining.
Of course.
All right. So I just walked listeners through your incredibly impressive professional background, but it would be really helpful if you could just give the guests something about you on a personal front.
Yeah, for sure. I guess I bizarrely asked my wife what she thought was interesting about me on the personal front, and she said nothing. We've been together 26 years. Maybe that's the most interesting thing. But I tell people all the time, she and I are still, after all these years, the first and last one on any dance floor at any party or event. So if you like to dance, come find us. We'll always be there.
Okay, I love it. That's awesome. And I'm going to out you because I know that you mentioned this to me, but you wanted to be a DJ, it sounds like.
I did. Yes, I still do. I dream about being not just a DJ, but a club DJ.
Absolutely.
It's got to be, I want to make people happy and see them dancing and enjoying themselves. And that is my passion. And so someday, just wait, maybe I'll make it happen.
I'm ready. Okay, so we're going to talk about advisors today. Over the past couple of years, and I'm sure you've seen this too, Jenn, especially in your own business, but there's been such a massive uptick in not only the demand for advisors from companies, but also I think more full-time operators are wanting to have a portfolio of work outside of their day job. It can really help you kind of keep a pulse on what's happening in the market, help you feel like you have a good understanding of things that are trending in industry, and just keep you sharp while continuing to be fully occupied in a role. And so this session is going to be specifically for founders, but really focused on advisors and the different roles in which they can play. So with that being said, first question for you. What are the different roles an advisor can play? When is the right time to engage one? And then how do I know who the right person is?
Yeah. So I think different types of advisors there really are, and it depends on your why for engaging an advisor. Sometimes it's because there's an expertise that somebody has that you don't have. You need to round out your understanding, especially for founders. Many of them have never been employed, much less led massive organizations or grown companies. And so in some cases, it's just what's that know-how that I don't have and that expertise that I need to supplement, my brain, build my brain a little bit about what's out there and what's happening. Sometimes it's specific industry kind of networking opportunities, connecting to people to financial sources of income or investments. Sometimes it's just listening to a pitch. You want people to give you feedback, but there's people that have been there, done that, like other founders who've lived the cycle and they've had successful transactions. Others, it's about kind of how do I become a leader? Like it's, engaging an advisor on that front, which is how do I grow my own leadership skills, my own capabilities, and kind of up my game on that front. So there's so many different ways that people engage advisors. And I tell people maybe to overuse the title of your podcast, but it is never too early to do that, right? I think
Ah.
as long as you've got that why, for yourself about what's important to you, what do you want to achieve, what do you want to get from that advisor, that's the most important thing. And then you want to build your network. I mean, a lot of these entrepreneurial ventures rely on people's networks and the ability to kind of lean on other people to help join you
hmm
in your conviction to start a company, and make something work. And so the more people, the better, to kind of bring on and bring into the fold to help you do that are truly invested in your success. You said, how do we choose the right one?
Yeah.
Um, oftentimes people, know people. So there's
hmm
that. So if you don't have the resources, but you have people you do trust in your, what I call kitchen cabinet, your confidants, they will likely have networks. Don't take that for granted. You'd be surprised just like how many people are connected in the networks that you have. That's one way. So, really strong referrals. If you're working with venture capital or private equity or any sort of investment firms, they typically have a very good set of resources for you to access. Professional organizations. I hear a lot of people at YPO, for instance, as an example. If you come out of Y Combinator, an accelerator like that, you may also be able to leverage those networks. But they know who's out there, right? And that's a good source for you to access to find out, like, who can help me right now, and who's the best, and who knows their stuff. And that's really what you want. Yeah.
Super helpful. Talk to me a little bit about the difference between advisors, board members, exec coaches, execs in residence. There's all these different titles and obviously
Yeah.
slightly different roles that each of
Yes.
these individuals play. So, help me break that down for our founders.
Yeah, yeah. So advisors are exactly that, people that provide advice, right? And so that can be informal, in an informal engagement, somebody that you just say, like, I need your advice, mentorship, guidance. And it can be formal. And often they'll agree to some sort of, number of hours or some sort of engagement where it's like, call me, phone a friend. I'm a phone a friend advisor for a few ventures. And I try to be, clear, like, that's how to engage me best, is when you need something, call me. So advisors can be a wide range, and it can be engaged in many different ways. um, the board of directors is typically a group of people who bring certain skill sets to the table. Many times with founders, I find that they have their original investors on that board of directors because they have a very vested interest in getting a return on their investment. And they've done it before. A lot of them have gotten companies to scale, and be successful. And so they tend to be some of the early board of directors, but they're there to help you make sure you've got a good sound strategy, business proposition, help you fill out your teams, sometimes your leadership teams, help you go get that network of other folks that can help you get the venture off the ground. And so I tell people, choose wisely, because those folks will probably be with you for a little while, but you really want those people to help you provide the governance that you need to get your venture off the ground and your business kind of moving forward. They really are key to making that happen. Um, yeah, there's other engagements called fractional leaders. That's something I do a lot of. Typically, these are folks that come in on like a part-time basis, for an unspecified amount of time. Sometimes it's just like, we need you, and oftentimes can be used to plug in. I tell people all the time, I'm plug-in executive. That's me.
I love it.
Where you need, yeah, where you need leadership and don't have it, even if I don't have the subject matter expertise, sometimes just having somebody that can be the grown up in the room or has kind of that leadership gravitas, credibility, and experience, is necessary. Sometimes you want specific subject matter expertise, right? So sometimes
Yeah.
you want to go after that. Either way, you will scope that role appropriately and say, this is, what we need. You mentioned execs in residence. There's also a term called entrepreneurs in residence. But either way, sometimes it's strangely, I have also been an exec in residence, but it was in an academic setting, because a lot of times academia bring in exec in residence, and it's somebody that's got that kind of pragmatic business experience to bring to bear in academia. But in the business world, it's oftentimes somebody that is either an operating partner or somebody that works closely with your investment firms or your investors. And oftentimes it's somebody that's got professional experience. They have scaled companies, they've scaled ventures, they're known and have credibility around that, and they have influence with those investment firms. So they'll either be used to do due diligence to say, yep, this person's got it. They've got that thing that you want to invest in or you want to, coach and nurture. Sometimes they'll come in and mentor the senior leadership teams and help them kind of navigate the trials of early startups. But either way, like you can leverage them, and oftentimes they're there and they're available, and that's exactly what they're expected to do. They just may be serving multiple portfolio companies for that firm, and so that's important to know as well.
You did a really good job of articulating all of those different archetypes. Talk to me. It's a loaded question. Talk to me a little bit about the differences in which all of those individuals are compensated and what the right structure is for each of those people.
It's different based on the engagement and maybe even the conditions of those engagements, right? Advisors often will expect, if they're expecting payment, they're saying it's formal, they'll want that in the form of cash compensation or equity of some sort. So it might be a certain number of retained hours. For instance, I do that a lot where I say I'll be available, 8 hours a month, and for this amount of money. Or sometimes I'll say, yeah, I'll just take equity, right? Some people don't want the money. And the reason they don't want the money is they want to have flexibility with their time and their commitment, right? So just know that, like, if you go after an informal advisor, know that that's really under their conditions, right? Because they want that flexibility. Fractional leaders typically are going to come in on a retainer basis or a contract basis. They may say, like, I'll start with the first 3 months, 6 months. It's going to be hefty price because you're paying for somebody that's got a lot of professional experience and probably has a good income of their own they've already earned, and they've done this for other companies or are doing this for other companies. And so you're going to pay more than you would pay for a full-time hire in those roles, but that's okay if you know you need that expertise immediately to help you figure out what you're going to need in the long term. One thing we didn't talk about last time was exec coaches. So it's another area too that a lot of people will engage, and people ask me a lot about coaching. There's different models of coaching and different methodologies of coaching. And so some people will engage on kind of an hourly basis for a certain number of sessions. I think oftentimes they'll say, like, I'll be here for 6 months or 12 months. It also depends if they're coaching multiple people within your organization or on your exec team. And if they're doing group coaching, because I do, for instance, co-founder coaching where it's multiple folks, because especially if there's more than one founder and they need to get alignment and they want coaching together because they just want to learn to work together as a team. That's going to be more from an hourly basis, but it's still like in an hourly engagement. And I say, you get like 8 sessions or 10 sessions, but that's how you pay your coaches. And an exec in residence, it depends. So again, they might be compensated by the investment firms sometimes because they're wanting to really shape like where they're focused and make sure that they're doing what they need. It's more of a reciprocal relationship. Sometimes they'll want a share of your company, right, as a part of being part of your growth trajectory. And so just figuring out kind of, again, why they're involved and under what circumstances, that'll help you guide you towards how to engage them and compensate them.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. So we talked a little bit about this, and you mentioned that you're an informal advisor to a couple of companies right now.
Yeah.
What are the primary differences between engaging an informal advisor and a formal advisor?
On the informal side, oftentimes those come to me in the form of a referral. Somebody has referred somebody to me, and it's because I have a certain expertise area or an industry expertise that they're wanting to tap into because the founder is starting a company in that arena, and they just want to know, like, how do I navigate this? If I want to go into CPG or if I want to go into direct to consumer, how do I get in there? Who are those people? How do I connect with them? Because those inevitably will be their clients or their customers. And so you're going after an informal advisor, usually just for an initial kind of tell me a little bit about, right? Those are how those conversations usually start. And I will sit down with anyone, which is a problem because I don't always think about like, oh, I don't have time for this, but I get so excited about these new ventures. So that's the informal side of it.
Yeah.
For formal advising sometimes can come like you said, that can emerge from starting as an informal advisor where you go from I got a question for you to would you be on our board of directors or would you be a
Yeah.
formal
Yeah.
advisor for me, right, on a retained basis? But a lot of times you want to make sure before you engage that person in a formal way that they will give you the time and the energy that you need from them, and then be really clear what you need from them, right, in that
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and something that I talk to a lot of folks about that are hoping to do more advisory work is that a lot of those informal conversations are ultimately what get you to be brought into the fold as a more formal advisor, right? Which is a lot of what you were just alluding to. Like people want to build rapport and credibility before allowing you to just have skin in the game and assuming that your resume is worth it, right? So I think it takes some time to build that trust,
It does.
and then those formal advisor type engagements come to be. But I think it's really smart for operators to just be open minded to taking the calls. It's going to make you sharper. It's going to make you have a better pulse on what's happening in market, and then it might lead to more of a formal advisory engagement or a potential board seat down the road, right? And that's how these things happen. It's more organic relationship building
That's right.
at the start.
It really is. It really is. And those relationships are critical, right? Like for everyone, both the advisor and the founder. Yeah.
My final question for you is around when to bring in an advisor or someone in a fractional capacity versus when to know to just hire someone full time. Um, and then if you could walk us through kind of pros and cons to both, and when it makes sense to do this, that would be helpful.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I kind of break it down to like if you don't know what you need, you know that kind of approximately, I've got a challenge, I've got an issue, I've got a need, but I don't know exactly what I need, and maybe I need somebody to help inform that, right? Like what's the right resource to go after? That's an advisor. Like just call and get some advice because somebody's probably had that need before as well, or they are the person that can solve for that. If you know what you need, but you don't know for how long, you don't know if you can afford it, right? It's like, I need this expertise. I need, these kind of financials, this financial analysis or whatever the case may be. I know I need a strong CFO partner, but I'm not ready to commit to that. I don't know exactly what the scope of that role will be over time. Then that's when you go after fractional leadership. That's a perfect opportunity to bring in somebody for a period of time that's just done it before and they can tell you what you need, but they can also probably help you find who you need for the role. Um, if you know what you need and you know you're ready for that partner, that person that's going to jump into this crazy, chaotic, joyride that you're on, and somebody that you want to build like a trusted partnership with that you're willing to share in the company's growth with, right? Because you're about to probably give equity to that person to join you. That's full-time hire. That's when you bring more people onto your leadership team and you say like, we're in this together.
Yeah.
But that's when and I tell people on average, just because I don't like to make investments in people unless I'm willing to make a commitment to them. So I say usually if you can see yourself 18 to 24 months from now working with that person, right? That's how you know it's time to hire.
Yeah.
It's you need the role, you need the person, you want that talent in place. That's how you know, and that's how you want to bring them in.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes these advisory engagements start as really trying to build rapport and creating a beneficial dynamic on both sides. And then over time, if you're working with them 18 months from now, then maybe the company's at a different stage where they could benefit from this person in a full-time capacity. And now that individual already knows the inner workings of the business.
Right.
They already have rapport and credibility. And so they can kind of just hit the ground running in a totally different way, right?
Yeah, that's
So
exactly it.
it can be mutually beneficial, I think, to start in that type of role if you're not sure what you need in a full-time hire, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show, sharing your wisdom and insights. I think this one is like so incredibly topical and comes up all the time. And you are the perfect person to walk us through it. So thank you so much. And thank you all for tuning in to Never Too Early. More to come soon.